a young student suddenly spots a shy uncle in the train car, secretly glancing at her. Instead of being surprised, she nods and greets him. The uncle smiles back, and then the girl shyly turns her face to the window. The uncle also awkwardly turns his face away, but the next second, the girl beams and confidently walks up to the uncle. The uncle's appearance is ordinary, but his smile is incredibly warm, while the young woman is exceedingly bright with sparkling eyes. Her every glance and smile deeply captivates the uncle. She's like a messenger selling sunshine, filling the uncle's heart with brightness and warmth. This beautiful, almost dreamlike encounter unfolds into a fantastical yet pure melody. The uncle's name is Lee Seon-jaeun, and the girl is IU. They are neighbors living in the same building. Their first meeting occurs on a summer afternoon. IU casually tosses a full trash bag, but it accidentally flies over the trash can and lands squarely on Lee Seon-jaeun's head, who is busy sorting trash. Despite this unfortunate incident, the uncle doesn't get angry. He slowly stands up and calmly, gently speaks to the girl, who wears headphones and has a pure demeanor. IU simply gives him a dismissive look, then turns and leaves without a word, leaving the uncle awkwardly standing amidst the garbage. While being unrestrained is characteristic of youth, carelessness is also a natural trait of a young woman in her prime. As IU stands on the balcony taking selfies, she inadvertently looks up and sees the uncle she just hit smoking upstairs. But when the uncle warmly nods at her, IU is visibly annoyed by the interruption to her selfie. This unintended gesture, be it friendship or indifference, leaves the uncle speechless. The next morning, as the uncle adjusts his collar in the elevator, the young woman rushes in and, ignoring his peculiar gaze, directly takes over the elevator mirror to tidy her somewhat hurried school uniform. She pays no mind to the uncle's soft greeting. Just then, the ground suddenly shakes. The carefree spirit of youth knows no bounds, causing the cautious uncle to quickly put distance between them. This lively young woman's unique charm reaches its peak on the subway where they meet again. Because she rushed out of the house that morning, she boldly borrows a tie from the uncle. Before leaving, she doesn't forget to arrange for the uncle to return it at the subway station after school. When IU arrives at school, her teacher notices that her tie doesn't match her uniform and confiscates it. Who would have thought that this red tie would turn out to be the red string left by the matchmaker, creating a romantic story filled with unspoken love? The uncle, Lee Seon-jaeun, is a civil servant who works in the district office. He's gentle, humble, and often helps residents in the community resolve their worries and difficulties. He carries no air of societal weariness, but within his reserved and shy nature, there's a hint of naivete. Each time he visits the laundry shop run by an elderly, lonely couple, he patiently listens to their repetitive daily complaints and stories. Even after having a full meal at their home, he can't bring himself to refuse the old lady's offer of more food. However, it's precisely because of this extra bowl of rice that he misses his appointment with the young woman IU. Meanwhile, IU and her best friend are waiting at the subway station. Ultimately, IU, unable to wait for the uncle, goes home and plays with a doll on the street downstairs. Just then, the stuffed uncle rushes over in a panic. After he turns around, his rumbling stomach exposes his feigned indifference. Fortunately, his stomach cannot speak. Otherwise, as a steadfast, no-nonsense man, Lee Seon-jaeun's beautiful love story might have ended right there. Afterwards, they arrive at a small tteokbokki shop. When Yoon-hee learned the uncle in front of her was already 30 years old, she showed surprise, mixed with a hint of disappointment. Yet, a single remark from the uncle made Yoon-hee smile broadly. The innocent and lovely girl sparked a ripple in his heart, but the age gap served as a stark reminder, like an alarm bell, for the uncle to remain calm. On the way back, the girl suddenly wanted to take a photo with a stray dog on the street. However, the flickering streetlights made her frustrated. So, the adorable uncle took the initiative, enthusiastically tiptoeing to fix the light bulb. As the warm light shone clearly like a golden stream, gently flowing into the girl's eyes, that glow sparkled in his gaze, illuminating every corner of his heart. Afterward, at Yoon-hee's request, he took a photo of her and the dog. Unconsciously, he shifted the camera's focus, centering it entirely on Yoon-hee's youthful smile. The dog, originally meant to be the main subject, was left with only a pitiful head still in the frame. When he wanted to take another close-up, he was refused by Yoon-hee. At this moment, the uncle's unconsciously indulgent gaze held all the unspoken affection he had for her, a love as deep as poetry. This day, he went to the community committee with a pot of flowers to thank the aunt who helped him find a suitable room. Unfortunately, the sky suddenly started to rain. So, he generously gave his umbrella to the aunt, while he himself ran back home, drenched and miserable in the rain. As a result, The next day, he caught a cold and was bedridden. But just as he lay shivering under the covers, the doorbell rang. When he opened the door, the lovely young woman appeared again. It turned out to be Yoon-hee, standing at the door with a bag of tomatoes. But when he learned the uncle had caught a cold, she suddenly ran off without a word, leaving the uncle standing at the door, gazing blankly at the girl's receding figure. However, as the uncle was happily eating the sweet and sour tomatoes, the doorbell rang again. This time, the distant figure seemed very hurried. After the uncle expressed his gratitude, the two stood awkwardly at the door. They looked at each other, and even without words, an ineffable emotion overflowed from their gazes. Yoon-hee not only kindly brought medicine, but upon entering the house, she also warmly cooked for the uncle. But the uncle, in this tender warmth, nervously fell asleep. When he woke up and saw the dishes on the table, and then noticed the warm reminder left by Yoon-hee on a piece of paper, he sent Yoon-hee a photo from that evening and a message saying, "It's too salty." Upon seeing the message, although Yoon-hee wasn't sure how salty the meal she made for him was, the sweetness in her heart was perhaps something no one else could experience. The next day, Yoon-hee bought an umbrella. On the way home together, Yoon-hee playfully opened the umbrella right in front of the uncle's face. At this moment, the umbrella for the uncle was like a warm embrace waiting to open, shielding his lonely and silent heart from the wind and rain. And so, they went to catch dolls on the street. In that corner filled with joy and warmth, the doll machine flashed with colorful lights, as if it were an adventure full of surprises and love. The repeated anticipation filled with joy, and the disappointment after repeated failures, made this night full of brilliant colors and a sweet atmosphere. Perhaps love is just like this, quietly emerging without realizing it. From then on, drops of love intertwined, and the warmth in their daily lives became anticipated. Whenever the uncle ate alone, a message urging him to eat well would always arrive on time. When the uncle was enveloped by boredom and loneliness, Yoon-hee's gentle reminder to quit smoking would arrive promptly. And Yoon-hee would also receive a message from the uncle on time after finishing her homework in the evening. Curiosity about his studies and late-night goodbyes before sleep became a cherished routine, like a prearranged agreement. Even their morning greetings in the elevator turned into an unspoken daily expectation. The warmth of human connection, the simplest of hearts. He was a bright spot within that warmth, captivating from the first glance, and enchanting even after a long acquaintance. The staff at the neighborhood office were organizing a charity sale of old items, and he arrived hoping to find a camera. However, his face was already sunburned from the scorching sunlight. When an uncle, full of concern, asked about his face, he simply complained about the intense heat, wishing instead for heavy snow. Immediately, the uncle pulled out a frozen bottle of mineral water from a nearby box and handed it to him. He eagerly drank it, instantly feeling a refreshing coolness on that hot summer day. That evening, during the oppressive summer heat, he received a text from the uncle asking him to step out onto the balcony. The moment he opened the door, snowflakes began to gently fall from the sky. He extended a slender hand, lightly touching the delicate petals of snow. Overjoyed, he looked up to see the uncle standing on the floor above, creating this artificial snowfall. The falling snow on the balcony resembled a beautiful, festive scene stretching for miles. The uncle's eyes overflowed with love, as if a stream of affection had accumulated into a thick, precious jade. Afterward, curious, he went to the uncle's door to thank him for creating such a unique romantic gesture. The uncle, in turn, presented him with a film camera. Delighted, he immediately aimed the camera at the uncle, ready to take a picture. He said, "You didn't wait? You already ate." Then he added, "I just see. Don't tell them for your child. I just can't wait to go." He then said to the uncle, "You sang it right." The old camera wasn't just a token of affection. It represented the uncle's warm, protective care, a heartfelt gift that allowed him to cherish all the warm moments in time. The next day, he developed the photos from the camera and wanted to give the uncle his picture. He tried to slip it under the door, but the gap was too small. Then, a thought struck him. It was the uncle's birthday. This allowed him to easily open the uncle's door. Once inside, he immediately turned on the air conditioner and then curiously began to explore the uncle's guitar. He also discovered the umbrella he had given him on the uncle's desk, and even saw his own picture set as the computer wallpaper. Everything in the room seemed to fill this teenage girl with endless curiosity. The following weekend, he secretly returned to the uncle's house to enjoy the air conditioning and do his homework. He even commented, "There's a sponsor, oh." But he accidentally fell asleep. When the uncle returned home, he had just taken off his pants when he was startled by the sight of the sleeping girl on the floor, not knowing what to do. He exclaimed, "Be careful, you stop." In the next moment, the uncle realized his attire was inappropriate and cautiously retreated. However, The girl's adorable sleeping face melted his apprehension into tenderness. He gently removed the headphones that were playing noisy music and hesitated before placing them on his own ears. He even thoughtfully pulled a blanket over the girl, then retreated to a corner of the room and dozed off. When dusk fell, he suddenly woke from his sleep. He frantically gathered his belongings, preparing to leave, but when he looked back, the uncle's bewildered expression made him smile. That evening, the uncle invited him to a tteokbokki restaurant and returned his headphones. However, his first reaction was to blame the uncle for stretching them out. The uncle, looking dazed, simply smiled at him. On the way back, he suddenly asked the uncle. The two went to the cinema. The dark steps almost caused him to trip, but the uncle immediately grabbed his hand tightly. Their hands remained clasped even after they were seated. The uncle then awkwardly pulled his hand away. The film playing was Happiness by Huang Jingming. At that moment, both were struck by the arrow of love. From then on, they began their ordinary dates. They would discuss interesting topics and walk home together after school. They often played claw machines at street corners, but he would become too focused on the game and inadvertently cover the uncle's hand with his own, causing the uncle to become nervous and lose repeatedly. On the way back, the streetlights and tree leaves intertwined, creating a dreamlike scene. The warm light filtered through the gaps in the leaves, casting dappled shadows. In the glow of the lights, the outlines of the tree leaves became even clearer. Their figures slowly moved through the light and shadows, as if merging with the beautiful night. At the fork in the road before they parted ways, he finally mustered the courage to express his feelings to the uncle, saying goodbye. He then said, "You see," and so they held hands, their steps light yet slow. The tree leaves rustled gently in the breeze, creating a beautiful melody for them. Their faces were radiant with smiles, like flowers blooming under the streetlights, radiating happiness. But they still reached the crossroads of their love. Suddenly, his mother appeared before them. He said, "I dream." As the uncle stood there, momentarily at a loss, he bravely held onto the uncle's hand and walked toward his mother, saying, "On his bed." The uncle, however, hastily pulled his hand away. In the elevator going back, the uncle and his aunt seemed slightly awkward, but the young girl, surprisingly, felt no discomfort or unease. Perhaps the fearless love of a teenage girl is a reckless pursuit, while the uncle, when faced with emotions, shows more consideration. After much hesitation, the goddess found the uncle. Although she had no ill feelings towards this timid yet warm-hearted neighbor, considering her daughter's future, she still expressed her opposition to their relationship. She added, "Some people like the man who enters the door like a barking dog from the spray." She continued, "Visual guilt islands." As for him, having lost both parents at a young age, his ability to stand firm in society was largely due to the uncle. He chose to abide by society's existing rules, whether explicitly stated or implicitly understood. He knew that, in the eyes of the world, he and the high school student should not be together. So, he chose to escape, deciding to end their relationship. One day, while taking out the trash, he saw Yuanqi but didn't go up to greet her. He even ignored her texts. The initial beauty, the longing from their acquaintance, the passionate admiration, and the deep pain all unfolded gradually at that moment. The pretense couldn't resist his longing thoughts. After school that day, he knocked on his uncle's door. Although he complained about his uncle not spending time with him lately, when he smelled the smoke filling the room, he understood everything. Despite this, he still happily invited his uncle to travel over the weekend, but his uncle refused. Yuanqi then left, tears in her eyes. Love knows no boundaries, and age differences aren't significant. It's only when love isn't deep enough that such issues arise. At this moment, Yuanqi's heart was like a falling leaf, slowly drifting down, flowing away. She grieved alone in this dark corner. The streets they once walked together, and the scenery they once admired now served only to pierce her soul. Their beautiful past and memories had transformed into endless bitterness. Love, it seemed, was so fragile. It could bloom brilliantly in an instant, but also vanish without a trace in an inadvertent moment. One rainy evening, they unexpectedly met again on a street corner. Yuanqi's words deeply touched his heart. In this complex world, who doesn't long for a pure, comic book-like romance? That day, while cleaning his room, he found a wallet on the air conditioner. It was the sunglasses Yuanqi had given him as a thank you for the camera he'd sent her, a token of her love. At that moment, he finally realized how important Yuanqi was to him. He decided to take action, to rebel once for his love. He decided to stop being a goody-two-shoes. He rode his bicycle, ignoring the security guard's warnings, and circled the playground at Yuanqi's school. He replaced the light bulbs on the street corner. He took a can full of coins to the claw machine they used to play every night. He placed all the dolls from his home in the elevator, where they met every morning. He did what was probably the most romantic thing he had ever done in his life for Shi. You are the evening mist, the clear light at the edge of the sky. You are a sugar cube secretly added to these plain days. Your downward dividing line. On this day, 18-year-old she arrived at the entrance of a street office. He stood there, smiling sweetly at his uncle. When his uncle had everything ready, he finally spoke the words that had been hidden in his heart for so long to the person he loved. Every encounter with you is a moment of excitement. Beneath the trees in the backyard, there's a public hostel. At this moment, you are 20 years old and a 30-year-old clumsy uncle. You met an 18-year-old young woman. From the initial cautiousness to the subsequent gentleness, and then to the calm love after stepping back and hiding, that blooming snow in the summer, that old but tactile antique camera, those colorful balloons and cat dolls filling the elevator, that comic-like love and affection, all are my bold favoritism towards you. In our departed youth, was there ever such a person who made us love wholeheartedly, yet couldn't love completely, leaving us heartbroken but helpless in the face of fate? But in this limited time, there's only one you in the human world. The mountains and rivers are vast, and everything is you.